So I've hit the record button. I am super excited to bring you another. This one's real special because sometimes I get to interview people I don't know, and this is one time where I get to interview a friend. Please help me welcome Lamont Vaughn from Grambling State University. Mont, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Mike. Good to see you again, man.
Absolutely, yeah. This we're all used to Zoom and meetings and go-to meetings and
Yeah,
things like that. So this is the new normal, I guess.
yes, it is.
And this is an audio only podcast, so people can't see this. It looks like I've got you down in the basement here. Where are you at?
Yeah, this is my office. This is my wife's Pilates machine that neither one of us use. I use a stationary bike, but it is what it is.
I was gonna say it looks like it's exercise equipment. You're staying in shape for COVID.
I'm just trying to, just maintain the good looks. That's all I'm trying to do.
Oh, I quit trying that a long time ago. I just gave up when it just doesn't happen. You just give up.
I just want my wife to look at me twice when I walk in the room. That's my goal.
Yeah, mine does, but always, side angles. She's always like,
Yeah.
what is he up to?
Yeah, me too.
Well, Lamont, let's get to know you a little bit better. Why don't we talk about maybe where you grew up and how track became such a big part of your life? Where did we grow up at?
I grew up in Chattanooga, Tennessee. My father was a high school assistant football coach and head track coach. He was the co-founder of the Chattanooga Jets summer track club. I got into track literally 6 years old. My dad took me to a meet, a local meet, and threw me in a 200. And I was, one of the 10 and unders, and they put me with the 11 and 12 group, and I ended up beating the 11 and 12 group. Probably says more something about them than it did about me at the time, but I grew up around the sport. I got into it. I ended up running track for them. I was an national champ, multiple All-American. Got recruited by Daryl Anderson, who was at the University of Kentucky at the time. Did 4 years there. Six-time SEC final 800. So
let's take a step back. There's a lot we could talk about at Kentucky because you had not only a great career but great teammates and coaching staff. I mean, what a special time at Kentucky. As you're getting into track, and I understand you started at 6, so maybe as you started getting into high school, maybe some other sports might have started diverting some time. Were you natural at track? Like, did you like running track, or was it kind of, my dad's the coach, I better run track?
I like winning. My dad would used to tell me all the time, he just said, look, son, you don't have to do this. Find your own path. My dad was more of a football star than he was anything else. But he just told me to find my own path, and this was my path. But he would always say, if you're going to do this, you're going to run under this program, you're going to do it right, you're going to do it my way. And that's reasonable. That's more than a young person can ask. But to know that I had a choice was probably the biggest thing that he gave me. And I chose to pursue high-level performances. I chose to pursue championships. My initial motivation for track and field was to get ready for football. To be totally honest, football was my first love. But I recognized at a young age that I was way better at track than I was at football. I wasn't, I'm roughly just under 6 feet now, or right at 6 feet now. And for the majority of high school, I was probably 5'9", and they just didn't want a lot of 5'9" slot receivers in that day and age. So, but it was an enjoyable experience. I tried baseball. I did a little tennis. I tried a little bit of basketball. I'm point guard size with low post moves, so that doesn't work. So I had to give that up. I can't shoot worth a darn. But I do the hustle stuff. I'll rebound. I'll take charges. I'll try to steal the ball. I'll trap. I'll do those type of things. But I just wanted to stay active. But once you start winning,
it's a little addictive, doesn't it?
Yeah, it just got addictive, and I was just willing to go through a lot of pain to get to that championship. So I just wanted to see how good I was.
How did you end up? You went to Kentucky, as we talked about. How did you end up choosing Kentucky over some of the other schools that you had interest in?
I'll be totally honest. Daryl Anderson reminded me more of my father than anybody else that recruited. Now, I did have a couple other coaches that did remind me of him, but I think Daryl's influence probably had the most style like my father. I mean, my father can give you tough love, but he can put his arm around you. I tell people all the time, Daryl Anderson's the only man that ever cussed me out for an entire 800 meters. And that's as true a story as it gets. But I saw the value that he had for us. I saw the type of man that I wanted to lead me across the bridge between adolescence and adulthood. Give it to you straight, and you just had to learn how to not take things personally. Because the thing that always scared me as a DA was if he stopped talking to me, that means he was getting ready to give up on me. And the thing that he never gave up on me. I think I was his first half miler, and he never gave up on me. As frustrating as I probably was, going through my academic issues my freshman year and trying to get myself to the level of my team.
Yeah, I don't know anybody. I cannot think of a single person that has not said positives about DA. Not just, yeah, he coaches, he's good or whatever. Like all people that mention his name, it's at a high level. I mean, and I've gotten to know him through, working here at Gale Athletics. Honestly, I can reverb that. He's so authentic, even with us on a business relationship. And then when we see it at the track, he's hugs and how you doing, how's things going, everything's great. Such a good guy.
One of the realest people I've ever met.
Yeah.
He'll look straight through you and tell you about yourself. But he'll also, do it in a way that empowers you. And that was the thing. I mean, DA empowered me to make a lot of changes in my life that ended up affecting me academically, ended up affecting me athletically, and also ended up affecting me, in a way as a young man. And I love that man like my father. To be totally honest, and there's nothing that DA could do to ever compromise that. That's my guy.
Yeah, I think saying that, you're right, because it's in his moral fiber. He would never do anything to go against that. That's just not just who he is that positivity, that empowerment person. So with being a coach's kid and obviously having such a, being influenced such a major level by someone like DA, when did coaching track and field become a thought for you? Was that did you major in something in college that you thought, yeah, I'm going to be a track coach, or were you on a path somewhere else?
I fought it. I had finished up my eligibility at University of Kentucky, and I joined the AmeriCorps program, the Athletes in Service.
Really?
And, yeah. And they asked us, what population would you rather work with? And I said, I always rather work with high school. My dad was mainly a middle school teacher when growing up, and I don't like middle schoolers sometimes. So I chose the high school population. And so we were served as mentors within that school. And so I tell people this, I made the mistake of wearing a Kentucky track and field shirt to work one time. And the kids just, you ran in Kentucky, and why don't you come out here and coach us? And for months, it was like, nah. And I was still trying to do a little training myself. DA had moved on to Arizona State, and I was trying to do a little something. Still trying to finish my degree and just kind of keep myself active. So, and plus I couldn't find anything better to do between 2 and 6 every day. So the kids just kept begging me. And they, I said, all right, I'll go out there and help you out once or twice. And then it just
like, you'll leave me alone. I'll go. out.
I'll go out there and tell you what I see, and that's what it was. And my wife looked at me and said, well, you don't have nothing else better to do. You weren't married at the time, but she's like, why don't you get these kids a shot? And started coaching them. Did that until I finished my degree. And John Kennison, Coach K, coaching with DA at TCU. He had a friend, R.N. Ball, at Titusville High School. And Coach Ball called up Coach K and said, hey, I'm looking for a sprint coach. Thinking about retiring in a couple of years. I need somebody who can come in and take over. And thank God Coach Kennison had my name in his head. So he spoke to him about me and the work that I had done with the high school. And Coach Ball called me up, went and interviewed literally the day of my last undergraduate exam. my wife and I hopped in my little green Geo Prism and drove around 16 hours. I got to Titusville literally about 2 hours before my interview. Took a shower, shaved in the gym locker, put on my suit, did the interview, rolled around the city, had lunch with the coach and the AD, and drove back.
Wow.
So, and I started in January of 1998, and got married.
So at that point, did you know, when you got that job, and I think that's where you and I met, actually, it's Titusville, with Alicia Denson.
Yep.
I still have, sorry, this is, no one's going to care about the story but me and you. I still have this medallion that says, through all things through Christ, I think it is. It's Christy that she gave myself, and she might have given actually every one of our track coaches at Troy University. And I still, it's at my car right now, right outside this door. Yeah, you should please.
I stay in semi-regular contact with her. She's doing
good. Yeah, that meant something to me, just that someone would think of me to. I mean, she probably paid $1 for it, but I tell you what,
families like that, man. That
was
family.
20 plus years ago. I have been around the country since then. That has gone with me everywhere. Like I said, literally right out this door. So now that you get the job at Titusville, though, so now is coaching. You fought it.
Yes.
Was it like, okay, I'm a coach?
Yes. I thought I was going to do exactly what my father did. The high school route. I thought I was going to stay in there. Something about Florida in the 70-degree winters, I really it really spoke to me.
Yeah, shock. Yeah.
So, I thought that's what I was going to do. And I just remember at one point, they gave, like, when I first started teaching there, it was in-school suspension. I had that, and then I had 2 health classes that I taught. And during my planning period, all I kept thinking about was track. That's all I kept thinking about was track this, track that. So, it got to a point where, I saw the love that my father had for that level of teaching, and I recognized I didn't have that. And so I thought it was a disservice to the young people in that community to continue to keep staying in that position.
What was it, the teaching, or like, did you think about going into administration, or was it like?
It wasn't even the teaching. It was, the kids were fine. Even the in-school suspension kids were fine, because usually you're just getting the bad kids that do something bad in the moment. I just didn't find myself making an impact because, to be totally honest, a lot of the parents were in the way. And so I was really trying to make an impact on a community. And it's a rough job. I don't know how my dad did it for almost 40 years. I have no clue how he did it. And then literally I started, the computer that I had, now I'm becoming a little bit more internet savvy, and I just started looking at some things and had some discussions with my wife. My wife, was a little homesick because, now we're 16 hours away from her parents, and so, we're just kind of looking at all of that. She had a pretty far commute from Titusville. She worked with Big Brothers Big Sisters of Brevard County, and so I think that was in Melbourne or something like that, or Merritt Island or something like that. And it was a pretty long commute. And so we're just kind of looking at kind of consolidating things. And I said, I think I want to try and do this college thing. So I applied at Marshall University thinking, I'm never going to get this job. No college is going to take me. And, Jeff Small called me up, and he knew DA and Coach K from the time in South Carolina. And so he called them and said, hey, be a good fit. And next thing I know, I remember sitting outside. I was just sitting there watching many little lizards go by. And
that is Florida right there.
Yeah. And then I got my wife comes out and says, you got a phone call, and I answered the phone, and it was Jeff, and he said, we need you here. I think it was August 2nd or something like that. So we literally had about a month to pull that off. So we packed up and did it.
The things that we do for college coaching, I tell you what. So you go to Marshall, and tell me the years you were at Marshall. Did that overlap when I was at Ball State at all, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
4, because they cut the men's program in '03.
Yeah, okay, that's right. I couldn't remember that. And so where after you had a couple of years there at Marshall and did a great job, actually. I know I never liked going to a meet that Marshall was at because I knew you were there, and I loved you, but did not like your athletes because they were too good.
We tried to make it interesting, man. That's all we were trying to do.
Yeah, well, they got a lot better when you were there.
Yeah.
I remember that. So where after Marshall, where did you end up?
Just kind of really trying to figure it out, man. We spent a couple of more months in Huntington, and then I got a call from Rick Erdman and Coach Moore over at Eastern Kentucky, and literally conversation with, hey, we respect what you're doing, and we appreciate you. And, we know you're on tough times, so why don't you come be our graduate assistant? Got there in January of 2004, right before indoor. Coach Moore gave me some responsibilities with mainly the short sprint group. He really taught me a lot about the hurdles. I mean, that's Coach Moore's passion, is the hurdles. And I did one season there. I was getting ready to start the fall, and I was taking those graduate classes. And DA called me and said, I was doing some interviews, and he called me. I was in the airport, and DA gave me the business, some of those interviews that I took. He's like, what are you trying to be, a jump coach, sprint coach? What are you trying to do? And I said, Coach, I'm trying to feed my family. He said, well, I got something for you. Just wait. And a couple of weeks went by. I'm literally starting classes, and DA called me and said, Greg Metcalf from University of Washington is going to call you. Don't F this up. And hung up the phone.
DA, short and sweet, baby.
yeah, that's my guy. And so I'm driving the rest of the way like, oh my God, I'm so awake, but I'm so tired when you call. And I'm like, no, I'm getting there safely now because DA just woke me up for the next 3 days.
You woke, right?
Yeah, and then about 2 days later, and Greg called me up and I said, hey, I want you to come out here and interview at University of Washington. Deion Miller had just left. DA had just left Arizona State for TCU. That was that summer where Pat Henry shifted over from LSU to Texas A&M. We had all that movement.
Big summer, yeah.
I was the last Power 5 track and field hire that year. So
you always were kind of more of an anchor leg than a lead off.
I thought myself a third leg, but yeah, that was just weird. And he called me up. I went out there and interviewed. And I'm always extremely thankful for an interview because just to get to that point, you got to go through so many people at places like that. And we had a great interview. And, we were driving back to Seattle to drop me off on my flight back to Kentucky. He said, so when do you think you can get here? And so I'm like, you offered me the job?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I said, let me talk it over with my wife and then I'll let you know. It won't be too long. And so did that and called him back probably about a day later, accepted the job. And he said, I need you out here ASAP. And I said, well, what's ASAP? He's like, if you can get here in a week, that'd be great. I said, well, my daughter's getting ready to have her 3rd birthday. We're getting ready to have a birthday party. I'd really like to be there for that. And so daughter's birthday is on October 12th. And literally 2 days later, I'm on a flight to Seattle. Spent the first 8 months out there by myself.
I was going to ask, what is, the 3-year-old doesn't know much at that point, but wife certainly does. What is she thinking about the moving so far here to chase your career?
I think right now, because I had to just really make a firm commitment to make sure that we were anchored in one spot. That woman has started her career over multiple times, and I just had to make it a priority to allow her to flourish and for me to take a little bit of a backseat because the value that I have for her, to be the type of mother that she is, to be the type of professional that she is, to be the type of wife that she is, the sacrifices she made, it was time for me to make one. That's literally what it boiled down to. I could not watch her do that again. And I couldn't be the catalyst to that. So,
and she was working inside of I don't know if social work is the right way, but you mentioned the
work.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's where her career was going at that point. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And she always had this desire to get into higher ed. That frontline social work is tough. I mean, when she was doing it in Seattle and I'm coaching, we always used to say, I get to see the best in people. I get to see people graduate and get jobs and start families and this, that, and the other. She always sees the worst in people. So to have the spirit that she had is one of the most amazing things I've ever witnessed in my 46 years. So, I tell people, man, that woman is with me, and I have to reciprocate that back to her. So we're just at that point of life where I have to make things work now. I have to. If I have to swallow some things, I have to swallow some things as far as the job is concerned.
It's amazing as coaches, male or female, collegiate coaches, male or female, that the running joke, and I'm not sure it's that much of a joke, is the turnover on a yearly basis. And I, by the way, raise my hand, guilty. In 10 years of coaching, I was at 5 different institutions. Wasn't married, so I didn't drag someone around, thank goodness. But the sacrifices that you have to make on both sides is really interesting on the support of the family structure. It's not about any one individual. It's what's best for the embodiment, the family together.
Oh, yeah. I mean, even the smallest thing, like when I found out that we were pregnant, I was at Virginia Tech. I was at their indoor league in Virginia. I was in Blacksburg, Virginia, the day I found out we were pregnant. First steps, thank God I was able to see those things. First words. I think her first word. I think I was at a tracking. I think I was at. I want to say I was at. Oh yeah, I was at the old C Ray relays in Knoxville. So
what was her first word? Was it hurdle or baton?
That was. I wasn't expecting that.
There's a lot of jokes there.
Yeah. I don't know if that was really what she was trying to say, but that's what I'm gonna do.
Well, let's pause family for just a second. We definitely want to continue there, especially as we know that was years ago, so we have updates. Yeah, but so talk to us about coaching. Was it Pac-12 back then, or was it Pac-10?
Yeah, Pac-10.
Yeah, Pac-10 , right. So tell us about coaching in the Pac-10, and what did you think about going up against the UCLAs and USCs and what have you?
It was a ton of fun to go up against the Dan Steeles, the Mark McDonalds, the Tony Beanies, the Deion Millers, the Chris Huffins, all of those great coaches. Francesca down there at Arizona with Coach down there, and Coach Ron Alice, that whole crew. Man, it was such a blessing. Jeanette Bolden. Such a blessing to be around those people and to compete with those people. The professional respect that was shown on a daily, yearly, monthly basis was just such an awesome experience. As you're trying to, I got to Washington at the age of 30, and still relatively young in the coaching profession, and to experience that and the type of young people that we had. The day we ran 3:03.85, man, 3/4 of that group were walk-ons the day we ran that.
Really?
Yeah, the GPA of that group was over 3.0.
Wow.
And we ran 39.43 2 weeks later, and the GPA of that group was like 3.1. So the type of young people that we were able to have, to see Ashley Lozier, graduate from college, to see, people like Sarita Martin, Felicia Hankton, and Lauren Dignam, and Kenyatta Reynolds, and all those people, Brent Stewart, Shonda Hart Scott, all of those young ladies that, put up with my madness sometimes. I got to learn a lot from them, and it really gave me a lot of affirmation that, you can't do it at this level. You just got to kind of keep trying.
And Ashley and Jordan are the two athletes that I think of the most at Washington. but you said something interesting there about, dealing with your madness. I think of that as like your coaching style methodology. Were you still developing how you were coaching sprinters and hurdlers and such at that point?
Yeah, I mean, I was doing that on the plane to Seattle. I had a long flight from Chicago to Seattle, a little under 5 hours.
I've done that flight. It is a long flight.
It's a long flight, and I'm sitting there, and I'm in the middle seat, and I got these two big guys just squeezing on me. So I can't get comfortable to go to sleep, and I'm so super excited anyway. I couldn't go to sleep, so I took out a pad, and I had the media guide, and I started looking through it, and it had all these like handwritten notes from all these people, Clyde Hart, and all these people that I've come in contact with through the years, and my father had come in contact with through the years. And I'm just sitting there looking at it like, I gotta change everything. I gotta change everything. I gotta change everything that I think I know about sprinting. I gotta change it and tailor it for this group.
Now, looking back, we always have the hindsight of 2020 on this. So it's one thing to in the heat of the moment, I'll call it, like you got your first, I'm doing air quotes here, big time job, right? Your Power 5. Did you really have to change everything, or was it more of a modification or even mindset change?
It was really a mindset change. The thing about University of Washington that was different from the other places I've been to was the resource of the Dempsey Indoor Facility. I had to be able to utilize that, because now I'm not going to get rained on every day in the fall. I'm not going to get rained on every day in the winter. I have a different set of athletes that are going to a different set of competition. I had to get them ready for the competition. The only thing that I think that I carried over was just making sure that we're ready for the postseason. That's it. I had to really kind of look at how many times we would go to the well and race. I had to look at, just make sure that we tailor, because the thing that I noticed about the group, they and it's no knock on anybody previous to them. You got Orrin Richburg and Deion Miller that preceded me, so they knew what they were doing too. But when I looked at the makeup of the group, and based on the training that I used to do, some of the guys, didn't know what speed was. Like I didn't, some of the guys that had run 21 seconds in 200 meters yet. So I've got to develop an acceleration pattern for them. I've got to develop some top end speed for them. I can't go to the well as much for them. I've got to make sure that we tailor everything to getting them where they need to be in the postseason. That's the job. That's just what this is. So, and then the intelligence of the athlete, I didn't know that going in. The mental and emotional intelligence of that group was such, the groups before I had, they were high, but the level that this group had was just astronomically high. They soaked everything in. When we would install something, they took it in and it was there.
Was that, what do you contribute that to? Do you contribute that more of the mid-major versus Power 5? Do you contribute that more to cultural? Most of your kids in the Marshall setting would be more East Coast, Midwest type, and I assume most of the Washington kids were West Coast, if not Northwest. What was the attribution to that?
I think it was just them. I think that was just their culture.
That group?
I tell people all the time, they were ready to receive what I had. It was a situation where, my style of communication fit their style of listening. Their style of communication fit my style of listening. And it was just a really great situation. We had responded to adversity so well. It was crazy. There were just times where I try to, sometimes just throw in adverse situations in practice. Like, oh, you changing? Let's go. So their responses were at such an adult level. That was just a mature group of people.
If you're a regular listener and you heard what coach just said right there, that, he would throw different things at them at practice. And we talk about at practice is when that's when you stress the athlete, right? That's what practices are, stress and adaptations. We heard that a couple of episodes ago with Brooks Johnson. He was talking about that same thing, about how to develop the athlete to be prepared when they're away from you, when they're in the call room, as you will. Here is another example of that. If you know anything about education and your own schooling, if you hear someone say something more than once, it's important. It's going to be on the test, so to speak. So here are two high-level coaches, really back-to-back episodes here, who were talking about that idea of practice of how to stress the athlete in that sense. Sorry, I had to take that divergent because we just heard that from Brooks.
Yeah, I think that's the old school in me, because I heard my father say that. I heard the coaches that I grew up around say things like that. So I tell people a lot of times, man, I'm a little bit old school, I'm a little bit new school. I can manipulate the technology enough. A lot of my values are a little bit old school, but adapted to the new school type of style of listening and learning.
I've never met your dad, unfortunately, but that sounds like you just described DA as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, my thing is, and my father was a student of the game. I can't tell you how many times I went with him to camps and clinics, and I've heard Coach Long, Mike Long speak, and Clyde Hart speak. And I'm a little kid just sitting there listening, just trying to be the well-behaved kid, waiting on Dad to be done so we go throw the football outside or go eat or something. I didn't absorb any of the information. I was too young for that, but I saw my dad study. I saw him interact, and so the thing that he told me, I remember having a conversation when I first got into coaching. He said, "Look, son, you can have all the science you want, and study that science. But the first thing you have to learn about coaching is it's a social science first. You have to get people to connect to the work and the purpose. You can have the greatest workouts." And this is how he would say it. He said, "You think everybody in that Olympic final does the same thing every day? No, they don't. The common denominator is that the athlete and the coach have a good enough relationship to adapt and adjust as they need to. They make adjustments together. They communicate together. So if you can't get him to buy or her to buy into the work, it doesn't matter what workout you have. It doesn't matter what you have in your head. At some point, you've got to connect people to the purpose. And if you can't do that, you can't do this. This is not a profession for you."
I know the outside looking in, the relationship you and your wife have, and knowing the social work aspect that she was doing at this point, and we're going to get into here in a little bit what she does in today's world. Do you use her at all, her expertise and knowledge in that level? Do you ever use her, bounce ideas off of her or things like that?
Yes. I mean, I've done it all. My UW girls used to call her Mama Vaughn. And their introduction to her, literally, when I got so ticked off with them that I knew that I could not respond the way that I normally respond. So I said, "You know what? You need to hear a woman's voice of the same message." So I brought her in to speak with them at a practice because I knew, coming from the male coaches, pound, they didn't need the pounding, but they still needed the message. And I knew I could articulate it at the time.
Kudos to you for having that self-awareness. That's one of the hardest things in the world to have. So to be self-aware that, okay, the message is right, the messenger, it's not right for the time for the messenger. So, and luckily for you, you had maybe the antithesis of you as the messenger to come in and
exactly.
the same message though.
Exactly. And, I don't know, sometimes we don't know the background of a lot of these kids. I mean, some of them don't have great male influences or great female influences, but no matter if they do or they don't, we still have to be great influences to them. And so, a lot of these kids, I mean, I had kids from California. Lauren Dignam was from Hawaii. Some kids from the greater Washington area or Portland or somewhere around in there. Well, they're away from home no matter if they grow up in Seattle or not. So we still need to be impactful influences on them to drive home the messages that their parents taught. So, and even some of my athletes have said, I didn't know what a good marriage was until I met you. But at the end
That's
of
a
the day,
powerful impact.
yeah, we're trying to manipulate and guide young people to success. Um, Not only creative success, but sustainable success. Not only sustainable success, but elevated success. So whatever we can do to be stewards of that's what my wife and I, and even my daughter now, have done.
So, and the time in Washington was really special. And I don't even want to demean it by asking what was your favorite memory, because honestly, the whole time period was not only athletically, but I know you guys had a lot of successes with that team and that team culture aspect of it. So let's start fast forwarding.
Yeah.
Take us through, where was the next couple of moves? How did it work out with the family and her pursuits and her education and things like that?
So we ended up at UCLA, working under Mike Maynard, working alongside. I was primarily the men's sprint and hurdle coach. Coach Bolden had the women obviously as the head women's coach. It was an awesome experience getting to watch her work, getting to watch Bobby Kersey work on a daily
Oh,
basis.
yeah.
Sitting out there watching Allison Felix. Sometimes I just go out there and just eat lunch with Dawn Harper and Allison Felix and Joanna Hayes and all of them out there. And Karan Clement was training out there. And Sean Crawford. And, now Jimmy Powell was training out there. So to sit there and watch that, it was like watching a master class right in front of you. Just bring your lunch. So that was an awesome experience, and one of the great experiences that I had being a half miler, working alongside Johnny Gray, who is American half miler.
The man, yeah.
To have such a great relationship with somebody that you looked up to and admired. How they tell you never meet your heroes. Well, Johnny did not disappoint at all. The type of person that he is really explains the level of his performance. Not the other way around. So to be in that environment at times was overwhelming. At times it was, you really got to check yourself as you walk through the office and you walk through, the Hall of Fame, and it's, 100 plus national championships walking around there. You walk through and it's Jackie Robinson's jersey and all these Olympians.
That place is unbelievable. If you've never visited that place, our words won't do it justice. It's through there. It is awe-inspiring.
It's crazy, and the thing that I always had to do is keep checking my ego at the door, because now it's UCLA, and I had some other opportunities, and people told me, you don't turn down UCLA for this and UCLA for that, and so it feeds your ego a little bit, and I really, really tried. Sometimes unsuccessfully, sometimes successfully to manage that. And, it didn't work as well as I wanted to do, as well as I wanted. We made an NCAA final in the 4x1 my first year. We had some guys that on the cusp, the Kevin Craddocks, the Maxwell Dices, the Jamal Lawsons, the Carlton Rolls, those type of young people. And we got a young man, R.J. Frazier, that I thought had a bright future, but because of the mistakes that I made, wasn't able to see that through. And so left there, actually went back to Kentucky, and then got a phone call to come back out. They actually thought I was still living in LA to be the head coach of Cal State LA. Did that, and I had a good time with the athletes there, and I'll plead the fifth on the rest of it. And then at the same time, my father-in-law had passed away. My mother was sick. We don't really have a lot of family on that side of the country. So we made a family decision to, get closer to home, but we needed some time to do it. My wife was on a contract job with Cal State LA, and we just kind of needed to get some things in order. When we went back to Los Angeles, we actually left our daughter with my mother-in-law, which helped her in the grieving process as well. So at one point, it was my wife and I in LA and our daughter in Kentucky. And then when everything went down, a job opportunity opened up for me at an NAIA school, Bethel University in Kansas, Tennessee. And then for several months, I was in Tennessee, daughter was in Kentucky, and my wife was in Los Angeles.
So, you know, you're talking about an amazing sacrifice here, Mont. I mean, there's been too many coaches. I was going to say plenty of coaches, but too many coaches that have, when they've taken a job, they've had to leave their spouse and family, whether it's a year to finish the kids to finish up schools or anything like that, selling houses, those kind of things. You're describing a situation where not only were the spouses not together, the husband and wife, your kid, your child, your daughter was also not with either of you. Now, luckily they were with grandma, but still not together. Walk us through what was there had to be some end goal, end game here to go through such the turmoil. That's turmoil.
It was rough, man. Thank God one of my athletes worked for an airline, got me a buddy pass, and I was able to surprise my wife on our wedding anniversary.
Oh.
The first year I was in McKinsey, literally just got me a buddy pass and, you know, did it. And so that was me showing value to her. But the fact that she was still in it to win it with me, still being a long distance mother and a long distance wife at the same time, also showed her value for us. And so that just needed to be reciprocated. And so there were things that I just had to sometimes put on hold. You know, it was, you know, I'm sorry, I can't go to this indoor meet. I need to go see my wife this weekend. I just can't do it. And the NAIA setting is a little bit more lax in that regard. So I was able to do that. And the university supported me, the head coach supported me. And so, you know, you just gotta have good people around you. And that was the best way we could navigate it. My mother-in-law is one of the best people I know, and you know, the support from our families on both sides of the family. My sister, you know, we made it work. Whether it was difficult or not, we made it work. And so it just starts with good people, and then after that, good people just need to communicate.
How long did that occur, and then how did you guys all get back together?
So I would say it was just a little over 2 years, maybe somewhere around. It's a year and a half to 2 years, somewhere around in there. My last season at Bethel, to be totally honest, man, I had made it up in my mind that I was going to bring my family back together, and I knew we couldn't do it at Bethel because the job opportunities just weren't there for my wife. The educational opportunities weren't there for our daughter. So I just kind of had in my mind. So I literally, to be totally honest, I put most of my stuff in storage. I had a little 2-bedroom apartment. Put most of my stuff in storage, and whatever I could fit in my Chevy Camaro, I fit it in there. Said, you know, I'm coming
Camaro.
Back. Yeah, I'm coming back to McKinsey only to get my stuff out of storage and move it to the next place, wherever that was going to be. And then Louisiana Tech had opened up. Calvin had just left for Texas Tech. I had actually interviewed at Louisiana Tech right before Calvin did, basically literally 3 days before Calvin did. And so Coach Stanley knew me, and I was probably a little aggressive in trying to contact him. And so he hired me, and that was I got there in September of 2015, and my wife was in Kentucky at that time. She had started working for the College of Social Work at the University of Kentucky, you know, doing graduate advisement and some other things. And I think she was probably teaching classes as well. And so she came down and visited. We had some difficult conversations that a husband and wife have to have. And I just remember her asking me, you know, if Louisiana Tech doesn't work out, are you prepared to make this home? And you know, that to me was a challenge, you know, and looking at everything you're talking about, you know, that 2016, 2017, you're talking about that daughter's getting ready in her freshman year, so this is a transition year. So if she's gonna, you know, leave,
big year,
now's the time to do it, because you know you can establish some type of home. And so, you know, for our daughter, having born and raised born in Huntington, West Virginia, lived in Lexington, Kentucky, Winchester, Kentucky, Seattle, Washington, Los Angeles, and now getting ready to move to Ruston, Louisiana. You know, it's time for her to have a place that, you know, I can come back to and have some memory. especially at this developmental stage of her life. And so when my wife asked that question, all those questions just hit home. And it was like, okay, this has got to work, not for me now. This has got to work for her. This has got to work for the ladies in my house. And so, as we discussed before, the burnout started to happen. It was kind of like, all right, I've got to figure it out. So I got into student affairs at Louisiana Tech in order to make sure that we weren't going to go anywhere. Because, when everything was happening with the athletic side of Louisiana Tech, my daughter asked me, are we moving? And I had it in my head and my heart, we're not moving. This is not going to happen. So I'm gonna take this job in student affairs, and I knew nothing about IFC Greek life. Nothing. I know about NPAC organization, National Family organizations. I knew about ours as a member of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated, but I had to indoctrinate myself in that and accept that challenge for the simple fact that it wasn't about me. It was about my wife and my daughter. And just this past Friday, our daughter graduated from high school. And so
congratulations.
Thank you. Not only is that a monumental achievement for her, for me as her father, it's a promise kept. And that's huge for me right now. And so, to now get more involved. I mean, if you've seen me on Facebook, I've done the Cheer Dad Chronicles.
Oh man, it's so good. I love it.
That's me celebrating her. That's me saying, you know what, and I'll be honest with you. I know my daughter Althea, she knows I'm not the hugest cheer fan. It's just a different culture than I'm used to. It's a lot of what I have coined as cheerosity, which is the energy that happens at a cheer competition. I'm not used to that. Those young ladies and young men are way too cheerful that early in the morning, and they keep it up all day, all night.
All day.
Yeah, I'm not that dude. Even during the 1500, I got to shut up for a little. So, but you know what? To watch her win the national championship with Ruston High School, in her sophomore year. And having won a national AAU national championship myself, that's something that we can share now. And
yeah.
I was there for it. And I just look at that weekend, I would have been at a track somewhere totally different. And so to be able to see those monumental things in our life, what are we usually doing during regular graduation season? We're usually at NCAAs, or we're usually at regionals, or we're usually at USAs, or we're usually, July 1st.
There's always a track meet somewhere. Yes.
Yeah. So to be able to see those things puts life in perspective now. And what I found that it's done is it's freed me up to be a better coach.
They say the absence makes the heart grow fonder, and I know you don't know the alternative because you guys were apart and now you're back together as a family unit. Does that hold any weight? Do you guys feel like you're stronger because you had time away from each other?
I think so, in weird ways, but I would say it's because of the strength of my wife and the strength of our relationship is that we are the way we are. Our daughter is an excellent student, very very diverse individual. Her worldview at her age at 18 is way greater than mine at 18.
Really?
At 18, the extent of my travel at the age of 18, it was only really in the Southeast. I had never been north of Knoxville, Tennessee, until my recruiting trip to Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
I had never been further than Memphis, Tennessee. I had never been further south than we would go to Florida every now and then, but you're talking about I had never been past. I visited Mobile, Alabama once, but I had never been in Mississippi before. I'd never been in Texas before, and so she's seen Los Angeles, Seattle, and West Virginia, and Kentucky, and now Louisiana. Her worldview is far greater than mine because she's seen more than I have, which is a blessing.
And direct attribution to you and mom.
Mm.
It's, you know, because those are, when you have a better worldview, when you've seen
Yeah.
more of in different aspects of this world, you have a better understanding of other
Yeah.
people that are different than you.
Yeah. The conversations that she and I have at 18, I never could have fathomed those conversations with my parents at that time because I'd only seen what I had seen. So, you know, she's in a, it's what you want for your children. She's better off than, and I had a great childhood. My childhood was fantastic. My parents are awesome people, but you know, she's better than I as a person, and
As
she's
a
a better start, and that's all you want.
as a father of a 9-year-old and a 6-year-old, I am terrified of what the conversations are going to go to.
I mean,
They're already terrifying me.
you can't stop them though. You
I
know, I mean,
know.
I believe, you
Wait a
know,
minute. What are you saying? I'm the dad. I'm supposed to be able to
no,
stop
no.
anything, right?
And I get it all the time. You know, hey, your daughter's beautiful. You're gonna have problems with the boys. I'm like, no, I'm not. She knows how to handle it. I hope my influence as a father is a great example of what men are and how men should treat women. Her mother is a great example of the epitome of what women are. I think I put that actually in a letter that I posted to her on Facebook. You know, she's at that point now where you know the lessons that we taught you. It's time for you to use them, and so I have to trust my job as a parent that she's equipped to handle those things. She's gonna make mistakes. God knows I made as many as I possibly could. Uh, but as a father, I just want to equip her with the ability to handle and to bounce back from. You can be disappointed. I just don't need you staying disappointed because that means you're not doing anything. So, recognize.
Say that again. That was really important.
Yeah, I mean, it's okay, to feel disappointed or be disappointed, but we can't stay disappointed. If we stay disappointed, there's no action to move forward from that.
That's
So
good.
we have to recognize the feelings that we're in and move and process them and move forward and create positive outcomes from those things. So I believe our daughters are equipped to do that because of the lessons that we taught them.
So you are talking, we're talking with you right now. Let's pivot just a little bit to your, they say better half, other half. This one is for sure better half.
I concur.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I know she would too.
Yeah.
Devanya. So Devanya has an extremely unique career. I don't even want to call it a job. She is the first African-American women's dean at Louisiana Tech, and she is over a department, and you correct me where I'm going to make mistakes here, inclusion and student success.
Yes, she is the dean of inclusion initiatives and student success. Her former title was she's the director of multicultural affairs. She's still serving in that role right now because of the pandemic and hiring freezes and whatnot. So she will be searching for a replacement in that field. But yes, she's the first African American female dean at Louisiana Tech University. And Louisiana Tech was integrated 55 years ago.
So Mont, you're a track coach. You have been at the quote unquote top of our profession. You have coached some amazing athletes, but you're married to a freaking dean.
Yes, man.
I mean, that's a whole, any track coach, it gets automatically usurped by a dean.
Yeah. It's an awesome experience because again, it's promise kept, stabilizing my career to give her an opportunity to reach this height and to have the same energy she had for me at the top of my career. And trust me, my wife had the energy no matter where I'm at. Marshall, she had the energy. Washington, UCLA, Cal State LA, now at Grambling State, she has the energy for it. But to see her reach this level and to see the action that she's putting into it, there's a lot more to come from that woman. And to be here every step of the way for it. I mean, I took off work to go to her appointment ceremony. So.
I love the pictures. It's so cool. Yeah. I mean, it's very formal. It's a big deal.
Yeah, it's a huge deal, man. And I wanted to be there celebrating with her. She went to my first Olympic trials as a coach with me. So that equivalent, and now we're just trying to get our career to the Olympics and on that medal stand. So I'm okay, as in my own manhood, machismo, whatever you want to call it, because that woman has done so much for me, um, to help me get to, amongst the top of my profession.
Is it
And
is
who
it
knows?
safe to assume, does she have a PhD?
Not yet. She's working on that.
Okay, I was about to say,
Yeah,
how did
we're all students in this family. I'm finishing my master's in sports administration. She's working on her doctorate in higher ed, and our
oh
daughter's getting
man.
ready to start Grambling State this fall. She's going to be majoring in nursing. She wants to be a pediatric nurse. So we're all just,
Dude,
yeah,
I got,
yeah.
I'm about to have a pep talk with my kids when I get home, man. We got to step up. The Vaughns are killing us, man. Jeez. I know you got a little bit of a
Well,
head start on me, but
look, I'll be honest with you, man. We had a little competition going on the highest GPA, and I'm third with 3.35, 3.6. So. Um,
that's not a bad third.
Yeah,
Jeez.
that's not a bad third, but trust me, there's a little side eye that goes with that every now and then. So, uh, thank God.
My family never believes me when that I graduated with honors. I graduated from Troy University, but I have that degree. No, I don't think people put their degrees on their wall anymore. I
Oh
got mine at
no,
my house. I got mine in my house.
no, no. Last time you saw me, when we did that last interview, my degree was the only thing on the wall over my head. So I'm just looking to add that master's degree. Um, to that, I've got a internship that I have to complete, and then I'm not doing comps. Which every day I say that I try to reevaluate life a bit. I have really challenged myself. I'm going to do directed research. So yeah, I'm in prayer about that. So
You beat me, my man. I got my undergrad. I never thought I'd see an undergrad, so that was
yeah.
good. I'm good.
Hey, look, I told my wife, you're gonna be the only doctor in this house because I'm not going for that doctor.
Yeah, it stops at masters.
I'm in the masters. That's it.
Well, let's take a little bit of a turn here. Speaking of, some of the work that your wife does, speaking some of the work that you've done with that, when you were working at Law Tech before you were coaching,
Mm-hmm.
and then of course just as a coach in general. In today's climate, we certainly shouldn't just ignore what's going on in the world today, where it's June 1st. Not sure when you're listening to this podcast, but if you're listening to it sometime in the future, maybe just do a Google on what happened on May 31st or May 30th and June 1st and this whole week. It's definitely a difficult situation that's going on out there, and probably it's partly because it's been a difficult situation that's been going on for decades now. It's not anything acute, maybe acute what we see on the news, but it's chronic on what's occurring in there in our society. So let's keep it in the same, we're track and field podcast. So let's keep it in the vein of track coaching. What do you see as we talk about some of the things that are going on in the world today and the different relationships and lack thereof of relationships and understanding? What is the role of a coach? Especially, I don't want to say especially, but in this situation here, as an African-American male coach, what is the role do you believe you have in society as it relates to the athletes that you work with?
I mean, my main goal is to shepherd young people across the bridge between adolescence and adulthood. We can't go back. You can't go back into adolescence as much as we love to. We have to move forward into adulthood. And these are sometimes 17, 18-year-old young people that we shepherd. And they don't have it figured out. I didn't have 18 figured out. I think I have 18 figured out a little bit better now at 46 than I did at 18. But
Yeah, amen.
we
Absolutely.
we we have a responsibility to empower these young people with the tools necessary to cross that bridge. We can't walk it for them. We can walk with them. We can push them and walk behind them. We can walk in front of them sometimes and lead. But we cannot cross that bridge for them. So we have a responsibility to help them process these things. A lot of these young people, and I always go back to my experience. You're talking about it in 1991, Rodney King, riots and things were going off. 92, yeah, that was 92 when the riots were going off. I was an 18-year-old senior, uh, and getting ready to go off to the University of Kentucky and not just be an athlete, not just be a student, but become an adult. And I thank God for the people that were around at that point. Um, you know, you're talking about coming off of Rodney King, going into OJ, and the country's reaction to the verdict, and you know, I told a story that, you know, I had a teammate that was attacked in a chemistry building and was assaulted, and teammate and I were one of the first people to respond to her, and as she staggered back to the dorms, and we were angry, and uh, thankfully people like Daryl Anderson, um, you know, got us in contact with people like Emmett Buzz Burnham, who's the director of multicultural affairs at Kentucky. Miss Beatty, who's one of the another person that worked in that office, Eugene Grundy, or Miss Chester Grundy. You know, he directed us to those people, as he also guided us in our anger, our frustration, our hurt. And so what you see a lot, you know, from what's going on in the African American community and what's going on in our country, we all, black, white, male, female, gay, straight, doesn't matter, Christian, Muslim, atheist, doesn't matter. We all have a responsibility to make sure that we're checking in on the mental, emotional, and health and intelligence of our young people and each other. You know, Mike and I, we were talking before, and my wife asked me a question last night, and I'm still trying to figure out the answer to it. And she just asked a simple question: "Are you okay?" And she expressed her worry for me. I've been followed in stores. I've been profiled, fit the description. I've been stopped on quote unquote routine traffic stops because of the type of cars that I choose to drive. Um, you know, there's a lot that we deal with, and we've got to be okay. And I'm seeing tweets and posts of some of my colleagues. Yes, we need to make a statement, but we also need to act as well. But we got to check in on each other, and we've got to make sure that we're okay, individually and collectively. And in this pandemic, we can't reach all of them. I mean, I've got kids in Baton Rouge, New Orleans, and Atlanta, and Bahamas, and Trinidad, Los Angeles, and places in between. So we can't physically hug them and, and, and put our arms around them or just see them all the time. We can utilize our technology and we can check on each other more, but sometimes it's hard to do when you're trying to figure out if you're okay. It's hard to focus on.
Yeah, I was going to ask, in the absence of that, what are you doing? But maybe before that, take a step back, and how are you processing things? Because you have to be I'm gonna say of clear mind, but I don't know that you ever can reach that, to be real honest. So you have to be in a clearest of mind that you can be that mentor, that shoulder, that virtual hug to your team that you have.
Yeah, I'm really trying to watch what I ingest visually. I'm really trying to watch what I ingest, you know, in my ears, and just, you know, take walks, process these things as they go. You know, at some point I have to stop looking at it sometimes, just so I don't get angry. I have to recognize my anger sometimes. I have to recognize that it's a natural human emotion. It's okay to be angry, but also have to figure out ways to move on from that anger and try to process that into something that is going to lead to a positive outcome for not only myself, not only my family, but the young people that I come in contact with through coaching and recruiting. So that's a hard thing to do sometimes.
Yeah, that was interesting. As a coach, as a high performance coach, we talk to our athletes about, hey, you know, you can't put chips and chicken fingers and fried foods and what have you into your body and expect to perform, right? What's the analogy? You don't put unleaded into a Lamborghini or something like that.
Yep, that's a VA quote for me.
Is that right?
Yeah.
You're taking that same philosophy for yourself for TV. I'm putting a little bit of words in your mouth now, but you said what you see and what you consume. Are you talking about TV and
TV, music,
songs? Yeah, music.
Yeah, social media. You know, whatever form of distraction, so to speak, or technology. I have to be mindful of it. You know, I'm an African American man. I have for now, oh God, 25 years have not used the N word in conversation. You know, I love my hip hop music, and I love comedy and this, that, and the other, but when I consume hip hop music, I usually get the censored version, just because I don't want to hear it. It puts me in a bad place sometimes. And I know I've got friends that use it, and that's. But for me, not using that word has helped me learn how to communicate not only with people outside my race, but it's helped me communicate better with people inside my race. And so I have to be mindful of adjusting that. I can't do the news networks all the time. I just can't. I just can't. I need to be informed. Yes, I get that. But I also have to make my own opinion of what I see and what I hear. But I also have to make sure that I'm educated, because at some point I'm going to vote. And it'll be my daughter's first presidential election, or second election. I have to make sure she's educated. I have to, some of these young people have never voted before in their lives that I coach. I got to help them become educated voters, not manipulated voters, but educated voters.
That's a great point. I hear a lot about, voting, going to polls that can change, that could change the trajectory of our country in a lot of aspects. And I hear it in a lot of the context of, well, if you're not happy with what the government's doing or not doing, go to vote. I have not heard that in the relationship of the coach, the mentor, over, 20 to 100, depending on the size of your team, 18 to 22-year-olds. That's really interesting, that aspect of talking about educating yourself to vote as a college student, as a college athlete, even specifically.
Yeah. I mean, they don't have to vote how I vote. They just need to be educated on the values that they hold, and support people and hold people accountable to the values that they hold. And if that is counter to mine, then you're exercising your right, and you're doing it in an adult fashion. I can't be upset with that. How you vote is your choice. That's why the booths are closed. So I don't care who they vote for. I care how they vote. I care that they do vote. I care that they do get involved. I care that they do become active in their community. I care if they give back to either a church or school or whatever they choose to give back. But understand that you have been elevated on the backs and the shoulders of the people who came before you. So now, as you get to every day, every year, you get closer to the end of your collegiate career, academically and athletically, you can also serve as a vehicle to open the door for somebody else as well. So how we manage that, how we do that, as we figure out who we're going to be as adults, is a very important thing that I see, and I hope that what we do is better than what we were given and what we have been given out in our generation. Because at some point, whatever we're going to change in this country, we got to get away from what we have been doing, because it's not working.
You mentioned community, and obviously it makes sense to talk about the coach and his or her influence over the team, and maybe even specifically your event group, but certainly over the team that you have influence over. What about the role as a leader? I mean, a college coach is a leader, and certainly your wife is I don't know if there's extreme leaders, but that's your wife for sure, right? What is the role that you take, and what are some actions that either you either have done or are thinking about in the community? And when I mean community, not just the neighbors in your neighborhood and your city, but even you have community and influence over high school coaches that you recruit athletes from, former athletes that are now coaches and teachers and such. What role do you take there, and what actions are you either have done or maybe thinking about?
The role, when I think of it, I think of our pastor in Los Angeles, the Second Baptist, Reverend Epps. He would always say, service is the price you pay for the space you occupy. So I occupy this space as a coach. I occupy this space as a member of my fraternity, as a member of my family. And so the role is service-minded or leadership. Helping people, and some of the things that I thought about within even our fraternity. We talked about, I serve as an advisor for an undergraduate chapter in the area, and so we were talking about doing things like voter registration, those type of things, and not just your typical voter registration, just getting you signed up, getting you information on the candidates and the issues that you're going to be voting for. Consolidating that into either a website or a social media post or somewhere where you can find some links in order to be more educated voter. Some of our athletes have agreed to do either a Zoom or a Microsoft Teams meeting on Wednesday, and so they can start discussing some things that they can do in their communities and bring those things back to the Grambling State University and the Lincoln Parish community. So we're going to start discussing that here in the next couple of days, but also give them an opportunity to vent on what they're seeing and what they're hearing and what they're feeling, getting them to be able to process it. When you can put, just like, us right now in two different places, if you can put somebody on the phone, on a Zoom meeting that's in Atlanta with somebody that's in LA, how are y'all dealing with it? How are you dealing with what you see? If that creates a space where at some point you can critically think your way through to some positive outcomes, you need to provide that type of space. So instead of waiting on somebody else to do it, I figured, why not me?
That's a great statement right there. Why not me? Exactly.
And I have to make sure that I'm in the right frame of mind for it as well. So, again, I have to do what I need to do to make sure that I'm in the right space for them. So it's always maintaining that service mindset. It can't be about me. It has to be about them. And if I can get through to one of them, I don't care if one of them shows up for the call. If I can get through to one of them, it's one more person that influences other people, just like the spread of this virus. All you have to do is just come in contact with one person and you can infect way more other people. It's the same thing when it comes to positive outcomes.
I was going to say, way to spin that positively.
Yeah, we can do the same thing. We can create, an antidote for racism and social injustice. We can create an antidote for that the same way a virus is created and spread. So we can do the same thing. We just have to, statements, they're fine, they're great. I see statements from, leaders and communities and presidents and coaches, and we can statement all day. At some point, we've got to act. And we've got to start critically thinking and problem solving. And I don't have all the answers, but I'm willing to start trying to find out an answer. If it's one answer or multiple answers, we've got to be willing to start that process instead of just yelling from both sides of far extremes. And, my father, and again, y'all hear me quote my father a lot, but he would always tell us, and again, this is the influence of a coach on young people. And he told us this. I remember he told us this during the Rodney King stuff, during the Gulf Storm stuff that we saw as teenagers. And he'd always say, you can't be so far left, you can't get right. The truth is always in the middle. And so what we see a lot of time in our news media, what we see all the time in our social media sometimes is we're a land of extremes. You got the far left yelling on one side, the far right yelling on one side, but the people are in the middle. And they can't hear the truth because everybody's trying to yell over each other. So we're not talking with each other, we're talking at each other. And at some point, that has to stop. And I have to, in my position as a coach, having influence over 18 to 22-year-olds, I have to help them process what they're seeing so we don't perpetuate what we've been doing. So if that means listening to them and trying to help them through this, or hugging them, or listening to them cry, or whatever it is, if I have to cry, if that spirit comes up, and that's just what has to happen. So we're going to have to be honest with each other, but we're going to have to talk with each other more instead of at each other.
When things went down in March, so as we were at the national championships, and NBA gets canceled, NCAA basketball gets canceled, and then for us the final blow was the track championships get canceled. It really, and then as the coaches collab group started getting going almost that same day on Facebook, I really thought about the role of leadership, and we talk about coaches as leaders. And it's maybe we were starting to see that it was easier to do when the world was all right, when we had a track meet coming up that weekend and we had recruiting just as normal. Everything was normal. And a couple of months ago now, I lose track of time. I can't believe that was, we're going on almost 3 months now when that went down. About 2 months ago, maybe 6 weeks ago, we invited Todd Gongwer to come, the author of Lead for God's Sake, and we were talking about the role of leadership in a coach in this time of uncertainty. And at that point, the only uncertainty that had bubbled to the top was the coronavirus, and kids losing seasons and opportunities, and coaches being concerned about is their program going to make it. And unfortunately, we've seen some of our fellow Mac brethrens, not making it out of this coronavirus. Yeah. And now, I don't know how, I was talking, I brought Todd on to, as a double down on leadership and coaches. It's your time to double down. It feels like now it's odd and eerie to think about it 6 weeks later. Can you 10x leadership? Because now even more than what we needed coaches to be leaders during coronavirus, during this bubbling up, because this certainly isn't just something new. This is just the newest bubbling up. It's back on the news, if you will, because it's happening. We need leaders, we need coaches to really shine with that leadership even more so today than we did yesterday. And literally it was yesterday, for crying out loud.
Yeah, that's a challenge for us, and we all lead in different ways. I even, within my own team, I tell, people who end up being leaders, if you're not a rah-rah person, don't try to be one. If you lead by example, be the best leader by example that you can possibly be. If you are a rah-rah person, be the best rah-rah person out there. But make sure we're all meeting our objectives at the same time. Stay on course to graduation and put ourselves in championship situations and always respond and act and move and talk like adults. So we've got to get back to those 3 big things, but we also have to be examples of that. Some of the things that we see sometimes happen in leadership, people compromise themselves, and sometimes people get desperate because we want to win and we want to win so bad, and we want to get back to something normal, and so we, a lot of us sometimes we compromise ourselves, but we just can't do that anymore. We can't afford to do that. The eyes of many communities are watching us, and they're looking for us for some type of sense of calm, some type of sense of leadership, some type of solution. And so we can't put ourselves in compromising positions anymore. We just can't do that. I don't care who's out there listening. If you're doing something that compromises your leadership, you have to put it to a stop. You just have to. I don't care how big or small that it may be. You have to put that to a stop.
Earlier,
if you're funny or whatever, it's got to stop.
Well, and we talked about that self-awareness is so hard, and you're right. Maybe it's I don't know where it ever starts, but that's one of the characteristics you have to have. Earlier in today's episode, you mentioned about the people that you surround yourself with, and as I think about this role of leadership in you, Mont, that you and I are one of those people that where I knew where I met you from, but like there's no like a single event, but we've always been around each other. We've always been excited to see each other at meets. We've just always gravitated towards each other in different aspects. And I think for me, because I believe very much in that who you surround yourself with mentality, I think for me it was a natural attractant to me to have you in my circle because of that leadership. Everywhere you've gone, the Marshalls, the Titusvilles, Washingtons, it doesn't matter. And thank goodness in your own family system, you have led with integrity and courage. And so I'm just so thankful in times like this that that it's sad. It saddens me right now. With some of the things that are going around, it does make me hopeful, but of course I'm always hopeful, to be frank. So I could be hopeful without the sad things going on. So I just wish they weren't going on. But I just do thank you so much for the leadership that you provide to your family, because that is where I do think it starts, family first, but then also to the multitude of kids that you coach now and have coached in the past, because they're the ones that are taking those good leadership skills and abilities that you've taught them and showed them and modeled for them, and they're doing to the next generation of kids that they're coaching or working with or teaching. As we start to wrap up here, maybe there's a coach listening right now and they just don't know what to do. You kind of described that a little bit earlier, the such a simple but powerful and difficult question that your wife asked you, are you okay? What might you say to a coach who just doesn't know where to begin to lead in this type of instance? They know how to get a program going to be a 4x1. They know how to deal with a kid whose parent passes away. They just don't know where to just start. What's one thing, what's an encouragement you might be able to give to them to help them get started?
I think the first thing you have to do, you have to be willing to open up and communicate. And communication is always a two-way street. Not only you have to talk, you got to listen. And you have to listen and speak with some intent and some purpose. When you're listening to someone, you have to be ready to hear some things you might not want to hear. You might have to be ready to say some things you might not want to say. One of the most powerful words in the English language is one of the shorter ones, no. And you might have to tell yourself, no, you can't indulge in this. You might have to tell somebody else you can't indulge in something. But understand, you're going to make mistakes. Everybody's falling short. I've fallen short multiple times. It's not about falling short. I tell my athletes all the time, the analogy that I give them is, when a boxer gets knocked down, they don't spend the next several months trying to figure out how they got knocked down. They get back up and get ready for the next fight. That's what we have to do. When we make a mistake, we got to own it, because we would expect our athletes, our student athletes, to own it. And then we've got to start problem solving. We need to be solution based. We got to be process driven. We have to get to that mindset, because they're looking at us, and we have to think about the student experience. And student athletes are more empowered now than they ever have been. But a lot of them don't know what to do with that power. So they run off on tangents sometimes that sometimes are away from the intent. And so our job is to get them to understand what to do with that power. Just like we try to get them to, I tell my athletes all the time, my job is not to put something in you that wasn't already there. If you're fast, if you're a champion, it was in you. My job is to help you become more self-aware so you can get it out and use it for something constructive for yourself and for your team and for your community. So we have to get back to that service mindset. We have to communicate. We've got to start talking with our athletes and not at them all the time. We've got to be honest with ourselves. If you're in pain, be honest with yourself. And the thing that I had to learn in a marriage was I had to allow my wife to support me. I had to allow my family to support me. We sometimes, especially us as men, we get so machismoed up that we want to hide things from them, and that all they want. I remember my wife telling me one time, I said, I married you. All I want is an opportunity to support you. Don't take that away from me. And that's an honest conversation that has to be had with yourself, with the people that support you. Allow your team to support you. And also be careful who you let in your circle. Not everybody that follows you is for you. So we've got to just tighten up ourselves, make sure we're taking care of our mental, physical, and emotional health. Shoot, how many of us may have high blood pressure right now? Let's take care of ourselves. Let's drink more water. Let's get out. There ain't much for us to do right now. Let's get up and walk. Let's go to the weight room if you can maintain social distancing and keep everything sanitized well. Do what you got to do. Just take care of yourself so you can put yourself in a space where you can help take care of other people. Because if you're broken, trust me, they're broken too. So we've got to start mending each other up and check in on each other. Check in on your peers, check in on your mentors. I know I need to reach out to Coach Anderson and Coach Holloway and Coach Fry and all of those. I need to do better at doing that. I need to check on my guys, the Ray Williams, the Eric Jenkins, the Kareem Jackson, the B.G. Dean, and the Ronnie Williams of the world. I need to check in with them. I need to check in on Coach Jones over at Alabama A&M. I need to check in on them. So I have to do better at that as well. So I'll commit to doing that if the listeners commit to doing that as well, and maybe we can link up that way.
That's a great challenge, a great gauntlet you just threw down there. You named, your circle is very wide because of your experience level, but I would echo that challenge of just go find. We all have 5 fingers. You can all go find one person per finger for something as simple as a text message, a voice message, a Facebook Messenger, phone call, of course, whatever. Just check in. If we start caring about people, just one more person, one extra person in our lives, that's kindling. That's what'll explode if we allow it to. And I want to piggyback on something else that Lamont said there. About reaching out and asking questions. If you are uncertain about how to, whether it's process your emotions and feelings about things that are going, no matter where you are on this spectrum of things that are going on, I think it is extremely important to just ask. Find yourself. You certainly, if you're listening to this podcast right now, there's no way I'm willing, for some of you that know me, I'm a little bit of a gambler. I'm willing to make a bet that you did not get to this point in your career, in your life, without at least one mentor. Reach out to that mentor and just ask, hey, what should I be doing? Whatever your question is, just reach out and ask. That will help start you on your journey to helping the 18 to 22-year-olds and many other people, family members, et cetera, community members that desperately need you to step up and be the leader that you are and to help this community out. Lamont, I can't say thanks enough. We talked a little bit about, we scheduled this last week as things were really boiling up. And then, today as it came time to hit the call button, the record button here, I wanted to be very open and frank and allow you to step out of this and not do this. And I'm so thankful and humbled that you stayed with your commitment, because not for me in this episode and all that kind of stuff, but I think your just raw, authentic self helped somebody out there today. Right now, someone's listening to this and they're starting to understand that, there's a bigger scope to things. It ain't about the next 100-meter dash time. It's not necessarily about the next recruit. That we're talking about livelihoods and generational breakage of curses and stuff. And so I know for a fact that this was a huge help to people out there. So thank you so much for just being authentic and your selfless self, man. That's all I ever expect of you.
And I appreciate you too. These venues, they help. These podcasts, they help us stay connected. It offers help. And I'll put this out there, man. If anybody ever wants to reach out to me on social media, just to chat, if you just need somebody to listen to for a second, if you need somebody to vent. If you have suggestions to offer, us at Grambling or me personally, feel free to reach out to me on social media. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Instagram. My Twitter is Coach Vaughn with a K, KOACHVAUGHN. I'm Lamont Vaughn Jr. on Facebook. Make sure you put the junior at the end, because if not, you're going to be a friend request from my dad. He's not going to know what to do about that. And then on Instagram, I am Coach Yo, KOACHYO. So feel free to reach out, and I take all suggestions. Please feel free to get in contact with me.
I'll co-sign that. If you aren't connected to Lamont, let me tell you, man, you need to. He's just a good dude. So you're missing out if you're not. So I'm going to co-sign that. Go reach out. You're just going to, there's at least one listener of this episode every time. So you'll at least get one more Twitter follower or something out of this. Lamont, thank you so much, man. Really appreciate you, ladies and gentlemen. Lamont Vaughn.